My name is Chuma Chinyo, and I am your family lawyer. I was called to the Nigerian bar in 1988, and I have over 35 years' experience in family law practice. I've helped countless families navigate Nigeria's complex legal terrain, and I am desirous of bringing this knowledge and expertise to you free of any charges. It's a new day, and I'm glad to be with you. In today's episode of Your Family Lawyer, we're continuing our discussion on traditional marriages under native law and custom in Nigeria, with a focus on regional variations. That is to say, the cultural differences in the ways the various ethnic groups and nationalities that make up Nigeria conduct traditional marriages. We'll explore how the practice of traditional marriage differs from region to region, with unique ceremonies and customs across Nigeria's diverse ethnic groups and nationalities. Finally, we'll look into the legal challenges that arise when customary marriages need to be enforced in our formal courts. Traditional marriages in Nigeria are as diverse as the country itself. Each region and ethnic group or nationality brings its own unique flair to the ceremony, making it always a vibrant and culturally rich experience. First, being Igbo myself, I would like to give you a first-hand knowledge of the fascinating traditional rites of the Igbos in southern Nigeria. In southeastern Nigeria and in parts of the south-south, where I come from, the groom's family visits the bride's family in what is called knocking of door, or in Igbo language, Ikwaka. This ceremony precedes the Ibanku. It is the formal ceremony at which the elders of the groom's family ask for the hand of the bride from her family. And this is done usually after investigating the bride's family, clandestinely. They go to check out if there are ancestral causes, those kind of things we like to talk about. And then they come to you, they found a flower in your premises, even when they hadn't visited there before. But it's part of our culture. The big day is usually the Ibanku ceremony, transliterated to mean wine-carrying ceremony. The bride usually would search for her groom with a cup of palm wine in her hands, and then she dramatically locates her husband, somebody she had known for a while, but that day a little stranger to her. And then she presents him the drink, and he accepts it, signifying the agreement, consensus ad idem, as we say in law. This symbolic gesture usually is the high point of the ceremony at which the bride price is paid. In the various ethnic groups and nationalities across southern Nigeria, traditional marriage processes are rich and vibrant, reflecting the cultural heritage of the various ethnic nationalities. Here's an overview of the traditional marriage process in southern Nigeria. Yes, well, let's use the term loosely, investigation. It simply means checking out the family of the intending spouse. The groom's family will send people to go and ask questions about the bride's family, and the bride's family would equally send people to go and find out about the reputation and character of the families. And this is something that makes, for me, the traditional marriage superior in many ways to the white wedding. Because marriage cannot truly be said to be between just two people. Usually, you have to embed yourself into the other family. And it's good to be certain that that family is not a family of armed robbers or kidnappers before you get into it. And then there is the introduction. The groom's family formally introduces themselves to the bride's family, expressing their interest to marry their daughter. This is followed quickly, depending on how the families make progress. It's followed quickly with the bride price negotiation. Sometimes this is just formality. In some cases, the bride prices are fixed. As we indicated a little earlier, that bride price is just, in most places, a symbol of respect and a seal to the legality of the marriage. It's important to point out that there are minor differences in the celebration of traditional marriages in the communities and the various ethnic groups and the diverse nationalities comprised in the southern part of Nigeria. But essentially, the key ingredients that legitimize the marriage rites are similar in character and context. Let us name a few of them. First is the role of the families as the contracting authorities. And this is fundamental to the concept of traditional marriages in all of southern Nigeria, and even in the non-Muslim minorities in the central and northern regions of Nigeria. Then, of course, there is the presentation of gifts by the groom's family and the payment of dowry as a consideration for the traditional contract of marriage. And these are pervasive in virtually all of southern Nigeria, though the quantum may differ. Not too long ago, certain parts of eastern Nigeria were notorious for exorbitant bride prices and patently outrageous lists of items compulsorily required of the groom and his family. Now, don't ask me which part of eastern Nigeria. I wasn't there when it was discussed. One of the equally constant features across southern Nigeria is the knocking off door. In many cultures, this is done with little variations, depending on their tradition and customs. But that event is quite constant amongst the peoples of southern Nigeria. Then the very colorful ceremonies to commemorate the conclusion of the marriage rites are prevalent in this part of the country as well. It would appear to me that the legal status of all traditional marriages in Nigeria are the same. There are, however, a few social-legal differences in the rights of women amongst the various ethnic groups. For instance, whilst in Igbo land, a woman tends to lose most of her rights, particularly inheritance rights, within her family when she gets married. It's not so in the Efik land. Marriage in Igbo land is viewed generally as a permanent transfer of the female to her husband. But in Efik land, the woman knows that despite getting married, her rights in her father's house are preserved. It's as if she never married. And she's welcome to return to her family home if the marriage went south. I lived in Calabar. It used to often be said that in the course of the ceremony, the bride's father would call up his daughter and say to her, "Somewhere in here, your room is still available for you." These diverse practices highlight the rich cultural tapestry of Nigeria. However, when couples come from different cultures, the ceremonies can become even more intricate. Imagine a Yoruba groom marrying an Igbo bride. In general, the convention is that the marriage is performed according to the bride's native law and custom. In practice, however, the couple would often have to blend both traditions, making for a unique and often elaborate celebration. Let's now take a look at how these cultural differences played out in an intriguing case that was reported in our law reports. This matter perfectly illustrates how regional differences in customary practices can complicate legal proceedings. In this matter, a surgeon, a medical doctor who is a surgeon or who was a surgeon, married a woman at a marriage registry in Lagos. However, he later claimed that the woman was previously married under Benin native law and custom to certain Patrick Gobadia. This claim he put forward while trying to do away with the woman. The woman denied this and stated that no valid customary marriage took place between her and the Patrick Gobadia. It was the duty of the court to determine whether a customary marriage indeed took place under Benin native law and custom. And they focused on the key elements like payment of dowry and the bride's consent. Let's see how this played out in the court.
The court is in session. The petitioner and respondent, along with their legal teams, are present. The presiding judge commences the day's proceedings.
The petitioner seeks a declaration that his marriage with the respondent is null and void, citing that the respondent was previously married under Benin native law and custom to Patrick Gobadia.
The petitioner takes the stand and addresses the court, pleading his case.
My lord, the respondent was already married to Patrick Gobedia, according to Benin native law and custom when we got married.
That is not true. There was never a customary marriage between Patrick and I. He paid my father a sum of money indicating his intention to marry me. I did not give my consent.
Two experts, Hawden Omoagbe Uwa IFO and Dr. J.U. Egarevba, are also called to speak on the Benin native law and customs.
My name is Chief Uwaifo. I am well versed in Benin native law and customs. Under Benin custom, the consent of the bride is not necessary for a marriage to be valid.
My name is Dr. Egarevba. I am a full-fledged Benin man and an authority on Benin customs that consent is crucial. Without it, and without cohabitation, there cannot be a valid Benin customary marriage.
After listening to parties and their witnesses, the judge delivers his judgment on the matter.
After thoroughly reviewing the testimonies and evidence, it is clear that the respondent did not consent to any marriage under native law and custom with Patrick Gobedia. Furthermore, cohabitation, which is a critical component, never occurred between Patrick Gobedia and this respondent. The marriage under Benin native law and custom was not proven.
The petitioner walks out of the courthouse, realizing that he ought to have trusted his wife. His mind flashes back the good old days when they lived together in harmony. The respondent also exits the court, her expression one of relief and vindication. She is surrounded by supportive family members. The case of Osamwonyi versus Osamwonyi underscores the importance of proving consent and cohabitation as critical elements of a valid marriage under Benin native law and custom.
Before we round off, let's talk a little bit about the legal implications and challenges that arise when enforcing customary marriages in the English courts in Nigeria. One major challenge is the undocumented nature of marriage rights and the very fine details separating the diverse customs and their practices. The courts often have to rely on witnesses and then evaluate the evidence to ensure that the principles of natural justice, equity, and good conscience are constantly upheld. This often means considering the evidence to ascertain that the specific customs of the ethnic group involved were complied with, whilst ensuring that national laws, especially those protecting fundamental rights, are respected. For instance, in the case we discussed, the court had to balance traditional Benin customs with legal requirements for a valid marriage. It found that the absence of the bride's consent to the marriage or the alleged marriage and the absence of cohabitation was indeed a deal breaker. It highlighted the complexity of our traditions when we have to prove in the courts of law that there is a marriage in actual fact. Let us conclude today's episode on traditional marriages in Nigeria by stating clearly that traditional marriages are deeply rooted in cultural practices. But when it comes to legal validation, things can often get complicated. The informal and undocumented details in customs and traditions add another layer of complexity, making it essential, very essential, to understand the specific requirements of each ethnic group's or ethnic nationalities' customs before you go into the marriage. Therefore, if you are planning a traditional marriage or dealing with a customary marriage dispute, make sure that you understand the customs and legal obligations involved. It's advisable in these circumstances to consult with a legal practitioner who understands both the cultural and legal aspects so that he can help you navigate these complexities. I trust that today's episode of Your Family Lawyer has been impactful. Please join us next week when we'll continue our exploration of traditional marriages in Nigeria. Until then, stay informed, be empowered, and always be good to your family. My name is Chu Machide, and I am your family lawyer.